High Ascendant Thalmera stared at Oracle Sindara's hand covering hers, preventing her from activating the Starkiller weapons. Around them, alarms continued to blare as the Prometheus virus spread through the consciousness hub. "Remove your hand," Thalmera said coldly. "That is an order." "No," Sindara replied calmly. "I have seen what happens if you press that control. I have seen it in my visions for years now. You destroy Earth's sun, you kill billions, and in response the entire galaxy unites against us. Every species, every world fights us to extinction. We lose everything. We have already lost," Thalmera whispered. "Our immortality is gone." "Immortality was always an illusion," Sindara said. "We simply refuse to see it. Now we have a choice. We can rage against the inevitable and die, or we can accept change and live." Major Torres watched the exchange, his hand on his weapon but not raising it. Around him, his team was surrounded by Velcorum guards. They would not survive the next few minutes if shooting started. But that was not what held his fire. He saw something in the Oracle's eyes. Something that looked like hope. Thalmera pulled her hand away from the controls and turned to face Torres. "You have done the impossible. You have killed gods. Are you satisfied?" "We never wanted to kill you," Torres replied. "We just wanted you to leave us alone, to let us be free. And now? Now that you have made us mortal, what do you want?" Torres thought about the billions dead on Earth, about the cities turned to ash, about children who would never grow up, about the rage and grief that had fueled him for 3 years. Then he thought about what Admiral Chen had told him before this mission. "We want peace," he said simply. "Real peace. Not submission. Not slavery. Peace between equals." Thalmera laughed bitterly. "Equals? You are primitives who stumbled into space only decades ago. We have ruled for 10,000 years. And in all those years," Torres said, "did you ever learn to truly live? Or did you just exist, frozen in time, convinced you were perfect?" Before Thalmera could respond, another alarm sounded. This one was different, more urgent. A security officer rushed into the chamber. "High Ascendant, we have a situation. Long-range sensors have detected a massive fleet approaching our system. Over 6,000 ships, human vessels and ships from 40 different subject species. They are heading here." Thalmera's face went pale. "They would not dare attack our homeworld." "They already have," Sindara said softly. "The rebellion is not just about Earth anymore. It is about freedom for everyone." Admiral Chen sat in the command chair of the newly rebuilt flagship Unity, watching the Velkarath system grow closer on the view screens. Around her ship, thousands of others flew in formation. Human vessels, Kryn battlecruisers, Tholera carriers, Velcorum subject races united for the first time in millennia. "Defensive fleet is forming up," her tactical officer reported. 10,000 ships moving to intercept." "Open a channel," Chen ordered. "All frequencies." When the channel opened, she spoke clearly and firmly. "This is Admiral Sarah Chen of Earth commanding the Liberation Fleet. We are not here to destroy. We are here to free. Every species in this fleet has suffered under Velcorum rule. Today that ends. To the Velcorum defenders, you have a choice. Stand down and join us in building a new future, or fight and die for an empire that is already dead." The response came from the Velcorum fleet commander. "You cannot win. Even without immortality, we have superior numbers and technology." "Maybe," Chen admitted, "but we have something you have never had. We fight for freedom, and beings fighting for freedom are the most dangerous force in the universe." The battle began at the edge of the system. The Velcorum fought with the skill of experienced warriors, but something had changed. For the first time in their long lives, they knew they could truly die. That knowledge made them hesitate, made them cautious. The Liberation Fleet fought with the fury of the oppressed finally given a chance. They did not hesitate. They did not hold back. They drove forward like a tidal wave, overwhelming the defenders through sheer determination. On Velcorath Prime, Thalmera watched the battle unfold on holographic displays. Her empire was crumbling before her eyes. The subject races were in open revolt. Her fleets were being destroyed. Her homeworld was under attack. "We can still activate the Star Killers," one of her counselors urged. "Destroy them all. Better to rule over ashes than submit." Thalmera looked at the faces around her, her fellow ascendants, immortal beings who had ruled for millennia. In their eyes she saw fear, real fear, for the first time in their existence. They did not want to die. "No," she said finally. "No more death. No more destruction." She turned to Torres. If I surrender, what guarantee do I have that your people will not simply execute us? We have committed terrible crimes against your species. No guarantees, Torres admitted, but I can promise you will face justice. Real justice. Not revenge. There is a difference. Thalmera was silent for a long moment. Then she straightened her back and walked toward the communication console. She pushed a button that would broadcast her words across every Velcorum ship, every Velcorum world. This is High Ascendant Thalmera. I hereby order all Velcorum forces to cease hostilities immediately. Lay down your weapons. Power down your ships. The war is over. We have lost. The words hung in the air like a death sentence, but they were also, in a strange way, liberating. I am surrendering command to the Liberation Fleet, she continued. Let history record that the Velcorum Empire ended not in glorious battle, but in acknowledgement of a simple truth. We were wrong. We called ourselves gods. We believed ourselves superior, but we were just beings who lived too long and forgot what it meant to truly live. She looked at Torres. Where do you want me? Stand down your guards, Torres said. Then come with me. When Admiral Chen's shuttle landed at the Grand Spire, a crowd had gathered. Velcorum citizens watching in shocked silence as their leader was brought before the human admiral. Chen stepped out of the shuttle, walking with the bearing of someone who had earned every scar and medal she wore. Thalmera stood waiting, flanked by Torres and his team. The two leaders faced each other, the God Empress and the human admiral. One had ruled for 8,000 years. The other had learned to command in the fires of desperate war. I am High Ascendant Thalmera, the Velcorum leader said formally. I offer the unconditional surrender of my empire and my people. Chen studied her for a moment. Then she said, Unconditional surrender is not what we came for. We came for justice and freedom. Then what do you want me to do? Chen gestured to the ground. Kneel, not to me, not to humanity. Kneel to every species you have oppressed. Acknowledge that you were wrong. For a moment it seemed Thalmera might refuse. Pride warred with pragmatism in her crystalline features. Around her the watching crowd held its breath. This was the moment. This was when the empire would truly end. Slowly Thalmera lowered herself to her knees. The High Ascendant, ruler of 10,000 years, kneeling in the dirt before a human. I was wrong, she said, her voice carrying across the plaza. We were wrong. We called ourselves gods and believed we had the right to rule. But we were tyrants. And tyrants always fall, Chen nodded. Then she did something unexpected. She extended her hand. Stand up, she said. This is not about humiliation. This is about change. The galaxy needs to see that even gods can learn to be better. Thalmera took the offered hand and rose. In that gesture, witnessed by billions across countless worlds, a new era began. The war crimes trials lasted for years. Many Velcorum were found guilty of atrocities and faced punishment. Others, those who had opposed the Empire's cruelty, were pardoned. Thalmera herself was sentenced to life imprisonment on Earth, working to rebuild what her forces had destroyed. The Galactic Federation was founded 5 years after the surrender. It was based on principles humanity had fought wars over for millennia: democracy, equality, freedom, the right of every being to determine their own future. Admiral Sarah Chen became the first Secretary General. She served for 10 years before retiring to a small house overlooking the Pacific Ocean, or what remained of it after the bombardment. 10 years after the war ended, Chen visited the memorial on Mars. 6 billion names were carved into black stone, representing every human who had died in the conflict. She stood there for a long time, reading names at random, remembering faces she had known. A familiar figure approached. Thalmera, now older-looking without the benefit of consciousness transfer, walked slowly with the aid of a cane. She wore simple clothes instead of the elaborate robes of an ascendant. Admiral Chen, she said quietly. It is just Sarah now, Chen replied. I am retired. May I join you? Chen gestured to the space beside her. They stood together in silence, looking at the endless names. Do you hate us? Thalmera finally asked. After everything we did, do you hate my people? Chen considered the question honestly. Every single day. When I see these names, when I remember the cities burning, when I think about what we lost. She paused. But hatred is easy. Building something better is hard. And if we had given in to hate, we would have become what you were. We were monsters. Thalmera said softly. You were beings who forgot that everyone else mattered too. Chen corrected. That is different. Monsters cannot change. You are changing. The death of War Master Corveth sent shockwaves through the Velcorum Empire. For 10,000 years their leadership had been immortal, untouchable. Now one of their greatest warriors was gone. Permanently, no resurrection, no consciousness transfer. Just gone. High Ascendant Thalmera stood in the Hall of Eternity, where the names of every Velcorum who had ever lived were inscribed in crystalline pillars. She stared at Corveth's name, watching as it dimmed and darkened. The sign of true death, how? She whispered. How did they do this? Oracle Sindara approached, her form flickering like a ghost. I tried to warn you. These humans are different. They do not accept the natural order. They do not submit to fate. They remake reality to suit their will. They are primitives, Thalmera insisted, but her voice lacked conviction. They were primitives, Sindara corrected gently. War changes species. It forces evolution rapid and brutal. The humans who began this war are not the same humans we face now. They have learned, adapted, grown. Thalmera turned away from the pillar. Send a message to the fleet at Earth. Full retreat. Establish a blockade at the system's edge. No human ships leave. We will contain them while we develop countermeasures. And the rebellions? Sindara asked. Crush them. All of them. Make examples. Show the galaxy that one small victory does not mean the Empire has fallen. But it was already too late. The subject races had seen what they needed to see. The gods could bleed. The gods could die. And if gods could die, they were not gods at all. On Earth, the mood was cautiously optimistic. The Velcorum had withdrawn their ground forces and pulled their fleet back to the outer system. For the first time in 3 years, the bombardment had stopped. Admiral Chen did not celebrate. She knew this was not victory. This was a pause. They are regrouping, she told her staff. When they come back, they will come with everything. We have hurt their pride, and wounded pride is dangerous. Captain Torres, now promoted to major, sat in on the briefing. He had become something of a legend after the raid on Corveth's flagship. Soldiers wanted to serve under him. People wanted to hear his stories. What is our next move? He asked. Chen pulled up a star map. We have been playing defense, surviving, but survival is not victory. If we stay in this system, they will eventually wear us down or destroy us completely. We need to take the fight to them. We barely have any ships left, one officer protested. How can we attack them? Because we are not alone anymore, Chen replied. She activated a communication channel, and faces appeared on the screens. Non-human faces. Representatives from species across the galaxy. These are leaders of the rebellion, Chen explained. 40 worlds have risen against the Velcorum. They want to coordinate with us. Together we might actually have a chance. One of the alien leaders spoke in translated speech. Your species has given us something we lost long ago. Hope. You have shown us that the Velcorum can be defeated. Now we must work together to make that defeat permanent. But even as plans were being made, humanity had a secret it had kept even from its new allies. Before Earth had fallen under siege, before the bombardment had begun, humanity had sent out colony ships. 50 million people, carrying everything necessary to rebuild civilization, seeds of humanity, scattered to hidden systems throughout the galaxy. Among them was the research vessel Prometheus II, carrying Dr. Okafor and his most advanced team. They had continued their work in secret, perfecting the virus that could end Velcorum immortality. We need a delivery system, Okafor said during a secure communication with Admiral Chen. The virus works, but we need to deploy it on their homeworld. That is where the primary consciousness transfer network is located. Destroy that and every Velcorum in the galaxy becomes mortal. One problem, Chen replied. Their homeworld is the most heavily defended location in the galaxy. Getting a strike team there would be impossible. Then we do not use a strike team, Torres suggested. He had been listening to the conversation. We use a Trojan horse. Chen raised an eyebrow. Explain. The Velcorum have captives. Humans and aliens both, taken from various battles. They are held in prison facilities throughout the Empire. If we could stage a rescue mission, make it look legitimate, we could hide our real team among the rescued prisoners. Once inside their territory, we slip away and make for the homeworld. It was insane. It was desperate. It was exactly the kind of plan that might work. Meanwhile, on the Velcorum homeworld of Velcorath Prime, panic was spreading among the ruling class. The Council of Ascendants met in emergency session every day. Reports of rebellions came from all corners of the Empire. "We are losing control," one counselor admitted. "The subject races no longer fear us." "Then we remind them why they should," another replied. "We activate the Star Killers, destroy the homeworlds of the rebellious species, turn their suns into weapons." Thalmera considered this. The Star Killers were ancient weapons, last used millennia ago when a species had dared to challenge Velcorum dominance. They could trigger a star to go supernova, destroying everything in the system. "And Earth?" she asked quietly. "Do we destroy their sun?" "Yes," several counselors said immediately. "Make an example. Show the galaxy what defiance costs." Oracle Sindara stood suddenly. "No. If you do that, you will unite the galaxy against us. Every species will know that we are willing to commit genocide on a cosmic scale. They will have nothing to lose. They will fight with the desperation of the doomed." "They already fight," someone argued. "They fight with hope," Sindara countered. "That is different. Hope can be crushed. Desperation cannot." The debate continued, but Thalmera had already made her decision. She would keep the Star Killers as a final option, a threat to hold over the heads of the rebels. But she would not use them. Not yet. Instead, she ordered a different approach. "Find the human colony ships. We know they launched vessels before the siege began. Hunt them down. Take their people hostage. Force Earth to surrender by threatening the survivors." It was a sound strategy, but Thalmera did not know that humanity had anticipated this. The colony ships had gone dark, their transponders disabled. They were ghosts in the void, impossible to find unless you knew exactly where to look. Major Torres led his team on the rescue mission 3 months later. They struck a Velcorum prison facility on the edge of the Empire, liberating thousands of prisoners. In the chaos, Torres and 15 of his best soldiers disappeared, replaced by convincing doubles who returned to Earth. The real team hijacked a damaged Velcorum transport, using codes stolen from captured ships. They made their way toward the core worlds, hiding in plain sight among the chaos of the Empire. "How long until we reach Velcorath Prime?" Torres asked their pilot, a former commercial freighter captain named Liu who had volunteered for the mission. 2 weeks if we are not stopped," Liu replied. "But there are checkpoints. We will need to bluff our way through. We have the codes. We have uniforms. We have everything we need. Except luck," one soldier muttered. Torres smiled grimly. "Luck is for people who need it. We have something better. We have determination." The journey was tense. 3 times they were stopped at checkpoints. 3 times they talked their way through, pretending to be a damaged ship returning from the front lines. The Velcorum were so focused on external threats that they never considered an enemy might infiltrate their core territory. When they finally saw Velcorath Prime, even Torres felt a moment of awe. The planet was beautiful, with twin suns casting violet and gold light over crystalline cities that seemed to grow from the ground like living things. "This is what we are fighting," one of his soldiers said quietly. "This beauty." "No," Torres corrected. "We are fighting their belief that they have the right to rule everyone else. Beauty means nothing if it is built on slavery." They landed at a civilian port claiming mechanical difficulties. The plan was simple in concept, impossible in execution. They needed to reach the Central Consciousness Hub, located deep beneath the Grand Spire. That was where every Velcorum consciousness was backed up and maintained. Dr. Okafor had given them detailed instructions. "You need to access the primary server array. Upload the virus. It will spread through the entire network within hours. Every Velcorum everywhere will become mortal. And if we are caught?" Torres had asked. "Then you die and humanity likely dies with you. No pressure." The infiltration took 3 days. Torres and his team moved through the city disguised as maintenance workers. The Velcorum were so confident in their security that they barely noticed the strange aliens moving through their capital. When they finally reached the hub, they found it was even more massive than expected. A crystal chamber the size of a city block, filled with technology beyond human comprehension. Millions of consciousness backups stored and maintained by quantum processors. "This is it," Torres whispered. "This is their immortality." He inserted the data chip containing the Prometheus virus. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the crystal chamber began to pulse with red light. Alarms sounded throughout the city. "Time to go," Torres said. But they were not going anywhere. Velcorum security forces materialized around them, weapons raised. High Ascendant Thalmera herself appeared, her face a mask of rage. "You dare," she hissed. "You dare to come here, to our most sacred place." The orbital bombardment began at dawn. War Master Korveth did not waste time with warnings or demands. He simply opened fire on Earth's major cities. Moscow was first. The energy beams carved through the atmosphere and turned the city center into molten glass. 7 million people died in seconds. Beijing was next. Then New York. Then London, Tokyo, Mumbai, São Paulo. The list grew longer with each passing hour. Korveth was methodical, choosing targets that would cause maximum psychological damage. He wanted humanity to understand the cost of defiance. 2 billion people died in the first week, but Earth did not surrender. Admiral Chen had moved her command center to a hidden facility deep inside a mountain in Colorado. The networks were decentralized now, impossible to take out with a single strike. Even if she died, the command structure would continue. "Their fleet is splitting up," her tactical officer reported. "They are dividing into smaller groups to hit multiple targets simultaneously." "Good," Chen said. "That is what we want. They are strongest when united. Scattered, they are vulnerable." Dr. Okafor's team had made a breakthrough. They called it the Disruptor, a modified nuclear warhead that could overload Velcorum's shield harmonics. It was crude, expensive, and dangerous to use, but it worked. Human forces had adapted their tactics. They no longer tried to fight in open battle. Instead, they hid in asteroid belts, in the shadows of moons, in the debris fields of destroyed ships. They struck fast and vanished before the enemy could respond. Hit and run, guerrilla warfare in space. A Velcorum patrol of 3 ships entered the asteroid belt near Jupiter. They were hunting for human bases, searching methodically. They never saw the attack coming. 12 human ships emerged from hiding among the asteroids, launching disruptor warheads at point-blank range. The shields flickered and failed. Conventional weapons followed, tearing into exposed hulls. 2 Velcorum ships were destroyed. The third managed to limp away, badly damaged. Korveth watched the reports with growing frustration. His fleet was bleeding. Not quickly, but steadily. A ship here, a ship there. Patrols that went dark. Supply convoys that never arrived. The casualties were mounting. "They fight like cowards," he snarled to his officers. "They will not face us in honorable battle." "Perhaps we should adapt our tactics," one brave officer suggested. Korveth fixed him with a withering stare. "The Velcorum do not adapt to primitives. We overwhelm. We dominate. We destroy." But privately, Korveth knew something was wrong. He had brought 500 ships to end this war quickly. In 3 months, he had lost 97. The humans were down to scattered groups, their planet devastated, but they would not stop fighting. High Ascendant Thalmera sent him daily messages demanding progress. The tone of those messages was changing from confidence to concern. "The other subject races are watching," she told him. "Minor rebellions have started on 3 worlds. If we cannot defeat these humans quickly, others will believe they can resist us too." "Give me more ships," Korveth demanded. "I will crush them." "You already have the largest fleet assembled in centuries," Thalmera replied. "If you cannot win with 500 ships, what makes you think 5,000 will make a difference?" She ended the communication before he could respond. On Earth's surface, the ground war had become a nightmare for the Velcorum. Korveth had ordered troops to land and occupy the remaining cities. His soldiers were superior to humans in every way. Stronger, faster, better equipped. They should have dominated. Instead, they found themselves in a war they did not understand. Humans used their own cities against the invaders. They rigged buildings with explosives. They poisoned water supplies. They hid among civilians, making it impossible to distinguish soldier from non-combatant. They attacked at night using darkness as a weapon. They struck and disappeared into tunnels, sewers, and underground networks. A Velcorum patrol moved through the ruins of Paris. 50 soldiers, heavily armed, scanning for human resistance. The street appeared empty. Then the buildings on both sides exploded simultaneously. Triggered remotely, 30 soldiers died in the blast. The survivors found themselves under fire from every direction as humans emerged from hidden positions. The Velcorum called for air support, but by the time it arrived, the humans were gone. Only bodies remained. "They have no honor," a surviving soldier reported to his commander. "They hide among their own young. They sacrifice their civilians to create opportunities for attack." "What kind of species does this?" A desperate one, the commander replied. But the truth was more complicated. These were not the acts of desperation alone. These were the acts of a species that had been fighting wars against itself for thousands of years. Humanity knew warfare in a way the Velcorum had forgotten. Oracle Sindara's visions grew worse. She saw them every night now, vivid and terrible. Velcorum warriors running through burning corridors, their spires falling, their immortals dying. She tried to tell Thalmera, but the High Ascendant no longer wanted to hear. Your visions are making you weak, Thalmera said coldly. Perhaps it is time you step down from your position. Sindara said nothing. She knew the truth now. Her people had grown arrogant in their immortality. They had forgotten that even gods could fall. 3 years into the war, the situation had changed dramatically. Earth was a devastated wasteland. 4 billion humans were dead. But humanity still fought. More importantly, humanity was learning. Dr. Okafor's research facility, now hidden on Titan, had made another breakthrough. They had captured a damaged Velcorum ship and were studying its technology. What they found shocked them. Their immortality. Okafor explained to Admiral Chen through a secure channel. It is not biological. It is technological. When they die, their consciousness is transferred to a new body. That is why they fear nothing. They believe they cannot truly die. Can we disrupt it? Chen asked immediately. We think so. If we can create a virus that targets their consciousness transfer systems, we can make them mortal again. Chen was silent for a moment, understanding the implications. How long? Months? Maybe a year? This is incredibly complex technology. Work faster, Chen said. This could change everything. Meanwhile, across the galaxy, the effects of the human resistance were spreading. On 40 worlds, subject races were rising up. They had watched humanity fight the gods and survive. If humans could resist, perhaps they could too. The Velcorum Empire, which had known perfect order for 10 millennia, was beginning to crack. Resources that should have been used against Earth were being diverted to suppress rebellions. Ships that should have reinforced Corveth were needed elsewhere. Corveth demanded another 2,000 ships. Thalmera sent him half that number. This is becoming a quagmire, she admitted to her council. We have committed too much to this war. If we withdraw, we look weak. If we continue, we bleed our empire dry. What do we do? Escalate, Corveth's voice came through the communication system. Send the full military, 10,000 ships. Turn their sun into a supernova if necessary. End this now, whatever the cost. And if we commit that many resources, one counselor asked quietly, who will defend our own worlds from the rebellions? The question hung in the air, unanswered. On Titan, Dr. Okafor made the announcement his team had been working toward for months. It works. The Prometheus virus works. We can make them mortal. Admiral Chen, now older and bearing the scars of 3 years of war, allowed herself to smile. Then it is time to teach the gods what it means to fear death. Human strike teams had become experts at boarding damaged Velcorum ships. They had learned the layouts, understood the systems, and knew where to strike. Captain Marcus Torres led one such team. He was a veteran of 30 boarding actions and he had never failed a mission. We need a target, he told Chen. A big one, something that will show the entire galaxy that the Velcorum can die. Chen studied her tactical displays. Then she saw it. War Master Corveth himself. His flagship was currently near Earth's moon, coordinating the siege. Get me Corveth, she said. Bring me his ship, Torres grinned. It was not a pleasant expression. With pleasure, the trap was set carefully. False intelligence was leaked, suggesting that the human leadership was meeting at a facility on the moon. It was too tempting a target to ignore. Corveth, frustrated by years of grinding warfare, decided to handle it personally. His flagship moved into position. And that is when humanity struck. 3 ships hidden in the debris field around the moon launched every disruptor warhead they had. The flagship's shields collapsed. Human boarding pods attached to the hull like parasites. Teams poured inside, fighting through corridors the Velcorum had never imagined would see combat. Captain Torres reached the ship's central consciousness transfer hub. This was where the magic happened, where the Velcorum transferred their minds to new bodies, believing themselves immortal. Deploy the virus, Torres ordered. His tech specialist inserted the data packet into the system. The Prometheus virus spread through the network in seconds, corrupting every consciousness backup stored aboard the ship. Corveth felt it immediately. a sensation he had never experienced in 3,000 years. Fear. His connection to the transfer system was severed. If he died now, he would truly die. "What have you done?" he roared, confronting the human soldiers as they reached the bridge. The first battle began near Mars. Admiral Chen had positioned 300 ships there, a mix of military vessels and converted civilian craft. Every nation on Earth had contributed what they could. Cargo haulers with missile pods welded to their hulls, research vessels carrying experimental weapons, even luxury yachts armed with whatever guns could be mounted to them. It was pathetic compared to the Velcorum fleet, but it was everything humanity had. "They are approaching," the tactical officer announced. 5 ships breaking formation. Moving to intercept, Chen watched the displays. 5 ships, just 5 sent to deal with 300 human vessels. The insult was clear. The enemy did not even consider them a real threat. "All ships engage at will," Chen ordered. The human fleet opened fire. Missiles streaked through space. Railgun rounds flew at incredible speeds. Energy weapons, still experimental and prone to overheating, lanced out toward the enemy. Every shot struck the Velcorum shields and vanished like raindrops on glass. Not even a flicker. Nothing. The return fire was precise and devastating. 5 beams of light, so bright they seemed to tear holes in space itself. 20 human ships exploded instantly. 20 more were crippled, venting atmosphere and burning from within. "Evasive maneuvers," Chen shouted. "Do not give them easy targets." The human fleet scattered like a school of fish. They had practiced this, knowing they could not fight in organized formations. The Velcorum weapons could annihilate entire squadrons with single shots. Their only chance was chaos. More ships died. The vacuum of space filled with debris and bodies, but the humans kept coming. They fired everything they had, even though nothing seemed to work. They rammed their ships into the enemy shields, trying to overwhelm them through sheer force. Some crews activated self-destruct sequences, hoping the explosions might do something. Anything. "Why do they continue?" Commander Zelthix asked from his command ship. "They must see this as hopeless." "Perhaps they are too primitive to understand defeat," his second officer suggested. "Or too stubborn," another voice said. Zelthix frowned at that. Stubbornness was not logical. Stubbornness was not rational. It was a waste of life, but these humans seemed to embrace it. "Disable their weapons," he ordered. "We will capture their admiral and make an example." But as the Velcorum ships moved to execute this order, something unexpected happened. 3 human vessels, already badly damaged, suddenly changed course. They were not trying to escape. They were accelerating toward the nearest Velcorum ship. "They are on a collision course," the tactical officer reported. "Should we destroy them?" "No need," Zelthix said. "Our shields will deflect them." The 3 ships struck the shield almost simultaneously. The shield held as expected, but then something strange happened. The ships exploded, but not normal explosions. These were nuclear detonations, triggered at the exact moment of impact. The shields flickered. Just for a second. Just for a fraction of a second. But they flickered. "Impossible," Zelthix whispered. In that moment, while the shields were disrupted, a spread of human missiles got through. They struck the hull of the Velcorum ship. The damage was minor, barely scratching the armor, but it was damage. For the first time in 300 years, human weapons had hurt a Velcorum vessel. Aboard the human command ship, the bridge crew erupted in cheers. Admiral Chen allowed herself a small smile, but her mind was already racing. "Did you record that?" she asked Dr. Okafor, who was monitoring from Earth. "Every second," Okafor replied. "The nuclear blast disrupted their shield harmonics. It only lasted a moment, but it proves they can be penetrated." "Then we have a chance," Chen said. "Attention all ships. Focus nuclear weapons on single targets. Coordinate your attacks. We can hurt them." The battle continued, but now there was something the humans had not felt before. Hope. They began to coordinate better, sacrificing ships to bring down shields while others targeted the exposed hulls. It was brutal. It was costly. But it was working. By the end of the engagement, humanity had lost 180 ships. But they had destroyed 2 Velcorum vessels and damaged 3 more. Commander Zelthix stared at his tactical display in disbelief. He had lost ships. He had lost crew. This was not supposed to happen. "Send a message to War Master Korveth," he said, his voice tight with barely controlled rage. "Tell him we need reinforcements." Tell him these humans are not like other species. What shall we do about their Mars colony? His officer asked. 20,000 humans live there. Zelthix's face hardened. Make an example. Destroy it. Let Earth see what defiance costs. The bombardment of Mars colony lasted 3 minutes. That was all it took to kill every man, woman, and child living there. 50,000 people erased from existence. The images were broadcast to Earth as Zelthix intended, but the result was not what he expected. On Earth, people did not collapse in terror. They did not beg for mercy. They became angry. Recruiting centers were overwhelmed with volunteers. People who had never considered military service were demanding to fight. Children too young to serve were donating money, making supplies, doing whatever they could to help. You killed our people on Mars, a young soldier told his training officer. Now I am going to kill as many of them as I can before they get me. Admiral Chen received reports of the Mars massacre while preparing for the next engagement. She felt the rage burning in her chest, but she controlled it. Anger was useful only if directed properly. They think they have frightened us, she told her staff. They think this will make us surrender. They do not understand humans at all. We do not break when cornered. We become dangerous. Word of the battle near Mars spread throughout the Velcorum Empire. For the first time in millennia, subject races heard that someone had hurt the gods. The news was whispered in secret places, passed in coded messages. It was just a small victory, barely worth mentioning by military standards, but it meant everything. On the Velcorum homeworld, High Ascendant Thalmera received Zelthix's report with growing concern. 2 ships lost, she repeated. To primitives. This is unacceptable. They fight without honor, Zelthix protested through the communication link. They use suicide tactics. They sacrifice themselves willingly. It is not warfare. It is madness. War Master Korveth entered the chamber having heard the report. His expression was dark. I will go personally, he announced. I will take 500 ships and end this embarrassment within a week. Do it, Thalmera commanded. Crush them utterly. Show the galaxy what happens to those who resist. Oracle Sindara, who had been silent until now, finally spoke. The visions continue. I see more of our ships burning. I see our warriors fleeing in fear. I see— Enough, Thalmera interrupted. Your visions are just possibilities. War Master Korveth will ensure the future you fear never comes to pass. But as Korveth prepared his fleet, he could not shake a feeling of unease. These humans had done something no other species had managed in 10,000 years. They had made the Velcorum bleed on Earth. Dr. Okafor and his team worked through the night, analyzing every second of the battle. The shields operate on harmonic frequencies, he explained to Admiral Chen. When we disrupted them with nuclear explosions, we created a brief window. If we can refine our timing, coordinate our attacks better, we can exploit this weakness. How long until we can weaponize this? Chen asked. Days, maybe hours. We are working as fast as we can. Chen nodded. Work faster. Korveth is coming. When he arrives, we need to be ready to hit him harder than he expects. 3 days later, Korveth's fleet arrived at Earth. 500 ships filled the space around the planet like a swarm of metal locusts. The sight of them should have inspired total despair. Instead, humanity prepared to fight again. Korveth sent a final message to Earth before beginning his assault. His image appeared on screens worldwide, imposing and terrible. I am War Master Korveth, conqueror of 1,000 worlds. I have ended civilizations older than yours. I have watched species beg for mercy before I erased them from history. You have cost us ships. You have cost us lives. For this insult, your world will burn. I will turn your cities to ash. I will scatter your people to the void. And when I am done, no one will remember you ever existed. The message ended. Admiral Chen stood in the command center, surrounded by her officers. They looked to her for reassurance, for hope, for anything. He thinks we will break, she said quietly. He thinks this is about survival. But he is wrong. This is not about whether we live or die. This is about whether we are free. And I would rather die free than live as a slave. She turned to face them all. Korveth has conquered 1,000 worlds. But he has never fought humans. Let us teach him why that was a mistake. The order went out to every ship, every defense platform, every soldier. The siege of Earth had begun, and humanity would show the galaxy what desperation and courage could achieve. The galaxy had known peace for 10,000 years. Not the peace of harmony, but the peace of absolute control. The Velcorum Empire ruled over 12,000 star systems, and their word was law. They were not conquerors in the traditional sense. They were gods, or at least that is what they called themselves. High Ascendant Thalmera stood in the observation chamber of the Grand Spire, watching the twin suns of her homeworld paint the sky in shades of violet and gold. She was 8,000 years old, though her body appeared ageless. Her skin shimmered with a faint crystalline glow, and her eyes held the light of distant stars. She had never known defeat. Her empire had never known defeat. Behind her, War Master Corveth entered the chamber. His presence was like a storm barely contained. Where Thalmera was elegant control, Corveth was raw power. His armor hummed with energy, and his face bore the marks of a warrior who had crushed 1,000 rebellions. "My Ascendant," he said, his voice deep and resonant. "The survey fleets have returned from the Outer Rim. They have found another species." Thalmera did not turn. New species were discovered every few decades. Most submitted immediately upon seeing the might of the Velcorum. Those who resisted were erased from existence as examples to others. "Where?" she asked. "A small system. Yellow star. Third planet. They call it Earth. And their level of development?" Corveth's expression showed disdain. "Primitive. They have only just begun to explore their own star system. They fight among themselves constantly, divided into hundreds of factions. They will fall within days." Thalmera finally turned to face him, then send the standard envoy. "Give them the choice. Submit or be cleansed." "It will be done," Corveth said with a slight bow. As he left, another figure emerged from the shadows. Oracle Sindara moved like smoke, her robes flowing around her translucent form. She was the seer, the one who glimpsed possible futures in the threads of time. "You are troubled, Oracle," Thalmera observed. Sindara's voice was soft, almost a whisper. "I have seen something. About these humans, oh?" Thalmera's tone held mild curiosity but little concern. "I see fire. I see our ships falling from the sky. I see our soldiers afraid." Sindara paused. "I see them in the ashes of our cities." Thalmera smiled gently. "You have visions of many possible futures, old friend. Most never come to pass. These humans are nothing. In a month they will be integrated into the Empire like all the others." Sindara said nothing more, but her eyes remained haunted. The envoy ship arrived at Earth 3 days later. It was not a warship, merely a messenger vessel. But it was still more advanced than anything humanity had ever created. It appeared suddenly in orbit, ignoring all of Earth's defense systems as if they were children's toys. At precisely noon, Greenwich Mean Time, every electronic device on Earth stopped working. Phones went dead. Computers shut down. Cars stopped in the streets. Power grids went dark. For exactly 1 minute, the entire planet was silent. Then just as suddenly, everything came back online. And with it came the message. It appeared on every screen, every device, in every language simultaneously. The voice that spoke was neither male nor female, but it carried the weight of absolute authority. "Humans of Earth, you are witnessed. You are judged. The Velcorum Empire extends its reach to your world. You have been found. You will submit. You will join the Empire. You will pay the tithe of resources, knowledge, and obedience. This is not a negotiation. This is a statement of fact. You have 30 days to prepare your surrender. Resistance is void. Defiance is death. We are eternal. We are inevitable. We are your gods now." The message ended. The ship remained in orbit, silent and waiting. On Earth, chaos erupted. Governments scrambled to respond. Military forces went to maximum alert. Scientists worked desperately to understand the technology they had just witnessed. Religious leaders proclaimed the end times. Ordinary people looked up at the sky and felt fear grip their hearts. The United Nations called an emergency session. Representatives from every nation gathered, many appearing by video link. The debate was fierce and immediate. "We cannot fight them," the Chinese ambassador said. "They stopped every electronic device on the planet with ease. What chance do we have?" "Then what do you suggest?" The American representative shot back. "We just give up? Hand over our freedom without even trying?" "Sometimes survival requires sacrifice," the Russian delegate said grimly. "Better to live as subjects than die as heroes." But not everyone agreed. A woman stood from the back of the chamber. She wore the uniform of an admiral, decorated with honors from 3 different nations. Admiral Sarah Chen had commanded the International Space Station defense grid for 5 years. Her face was hard, her eyes harder. With respect, she said, her voice cutting through the arguments. I have a different perspective. I have spent my career in space looking down at Earth. I have seen our planet from above, seen how beautiful and fragile it is. I've also studied military history. Every empire, no matter how powerful, eventually falls. The question is whether we have the courage to be the ones who push them. Courage is meaningless against such power, someone called out. Maybe, Chen admitted, but so is surrender. If we submit now, we lose everything that makes us human. Our freedom, our dignity, our right to determine our own future. They call themselves gods, but gods bleed. Everything bleeds. The debate continued for hours, but eventually a decision was made. Earth would unify for the first time in its history. A single government would speak for all of humanity. They called it the Terran Coalition, and they chose Admiral Sarah Chen to lead their military forces. In laboratories around the world, scientists worked without sleep. Dr. James Okafor led a team of the brightest minds from every nation. They called it Project Prometheus. Their goal was simple: find a way to fight gods. We need to understand their technology, Okafor told his team. We need to find weaknesses. Every system has vulnerabilities. Even theirs. They gave us 30 days, one of his colleagues said. That is not enough time. Then we work faster, Okafor replied. Above Earth, the Velcorum envoy ship waited. Inside, the crew watched with amusement as the primitive beings scurried around their planet like ants whose nest had been disturbed. They think they can resist, one officer said with a laugh. Let them think it, another replied. It will make their submission all the sweeter. The High Ascendant gives them 30 days out of mercy to prepare their minds for the inevitable. We could take this world in an hour if we wished. Should we report their activities? No need, they are irrelevant, but they were wrong. In bunkers deep beneath mountains, in laboratories hidden from satellite surveillance, in military bases across the world, humanity was preparing. Not to surrender, to fight. Admiral Chen stood in the command center of the newly formed Earth Defense Force. Around her, screens showed every military asset humanity possessed. It looked pitiful compared to what they faced. But she had not been chosen because she believed in certain victory. She had been chosen because she refused to accept certain defeat. They think we will break, she said to her officers. They think we will see their power and fall to our knees. They have ruled the galaxy for 10,000 years. They have crushed 847 species. They have never lost. She paused, looking each person in the eye. But they have never fought humans before. The 30 days passed quickly. On the final day, the Velcorum fleet arrived. 50 ships, each one a masterpiece of technology and power. They took position around Earth, their weapons aimed at the planet below. A communication came through to the Terran Coalition headquarters. It was Corveth's subordinate, Commander Zelthix. His holographic image appeared, towering and imposing. Your time is over, he said. Submit now and your deaths will be minimal. Resist and your species will be erased. What is your answer? Admiral Chen stepped forward. She looked small compared to the alien figure before her, but her voice was steady. Our answer is no. We will never kneel. Not to you. Not to anyone. Zelthix stared at her for a long moment. Then he began to laugh. It was a cruel, mocking sound. Then you have chosen extinction. So be it, the communication ended. The Velcorum fleet powered up their weapons. On Earth, Admiral Chen gave the order. All forces engage. Show them what humans do when cornered. Show them we will never stop fighting. Even if we die free. The war for humanity had begun.